Hi, Ati. How are you today?
I'm doing amazing.
That is good. I'm so glad we get a chance to talk. So let's start with who are you and what do you bring to this entrepreneur world?
Oh my God, what a good way to like throw that question. Okay, so my name is Ati. I'm a personal branding coach and photographer. And I'm not gonna boast like so much like what I do or whatever, but I love that you said, what do you bring to the entrepreneurial table? So you're probably gonna ask me about my story, but I'm gonna jump right into it
Go ahead.
because I think that that's kind of like why and what I bring to the table. So for many, many, many years, I was a bartender in the Las Vegas Strip. And I grew my photography business on the side for almost 10 years. And when I pivoted into personal branding, first with photography, and then during the pandemic with coaching, what I realized is that what I brought to the table, it was like, number one, really helping women be themselves. Like, I think that in this online world, like the last decade, there is such a hardship for women to really show up as they are because they have this feeling that they need to be a certain way or they need to show up a certain way. And the reality is that the secret, the shine, that secret sauce people are looking for is in actually being themselves and bringing to the table who they are. So that's what I bring to the table.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And I love you do that with photography too. Because I have to say, I had a photography session and I just felt like so awkward. And I'm like, I don't know what to do.
So part of that is I think that personal branding photography as a whole is kind of new, even though marketing photography is not new, right? Like marketing photography, you can find photos of like people sitting at a bank and families pretending to be families, but those were models, right? Like back in the day, like if you went to Bank of America or whatever, you saw lifestyle photos that looked very natural, but those were models with the advent of like social media websites like LinkedIn and banners and all this stuff where like we're all showing our lifestyle for what we do, we became the models for your own business. So if you don't have a photographer that not only is a great photographer but also understands your brand and gets to connect with you, it's hard.
Yes. Yeah, my first photos show that
Oh
very
my
much.
God. But okay, so okay, jump right in. Ask me. He's like, I can talk forever. Like,
You're
I'm like crazy.
good. You're good. Okay, so let's start with what is a personal brand?
I love that. So I like to demystify it a little bit. I think that when I came into this niche, if you want to call it, into this field, a lot of women had this idea that building a personal brand was kind of building something that wasn't there, right? So for me, and the way I teach it and the way I help women is really picking and really uncovering who you are, what is important to you, what you bring to the table, like you were asking me, and obviously your expertise. And then really pick and choose which of those things you want to show and how you want to show them, right? You're not really fabricating anything. What you're doing is package it in a way that is how you want to be seen, right? So you have the personal brand, and then you also have the personal brand building process. And the personal brand building process, what I tell women is really going from, let me actually explain this with an example that I always like giving. So let's say you're in business, you're not really being super aware, right, of how you want to show up. And one day you post on social media, then you go to a networking event, and then you're posting photos about your kids and whatever, right? Like you're showing up, but you're not really saying, okay, this is how I want people to see me, this is what I want to be known for. And now your brand is getting built by default. There is people that are seeing you, perceiving you, doing business with you, that now they're like, oh yeah, I think she has a podcast, and I think that she also has a coffee shop. Yeah, I'm not sure what she does, right? I'm not saying I'm using you as an example.
That's fine. Go ahead.
I'm not saying that. Actually, your personal brand is pretty like straightforward what you do, right? But I'm using that as an example. Now, a very different story is you saying, okay, so I have all these things. I have my podcast. I have my business. My husband also has a coffee shop. We have some rentals, right? Well, I really want to be seen as a multi-passionate entrepreneur that is helping women in this, and this way. So now you're taking things that are important to you and you create your whole personal branding strategy based on that bigger picture. And you're like, okay, so how do I want people to see me? What do I want to be known for? What is the expertise I want to show, right? And now, when you get to the brand building process, you're no longer on default, you're on the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
So that is pretty much like big explanation. The difference also between just your personal brand, how people perceive you, and how you build it.
Yes. And where would you suggest we like get started with building our personal brand? Like most people go on social media and they're like, I have no clue what to talk about except like what I do.
Love this question, because number one, I truly in my heart believe that social media is only a part of the pie, right? People think that social media is the only place to build your personal brand. However, building your personal brand has been around forever. Since business has been around, people would build their personal brands and what do they want to be known for. But with social media, we have this tool that exponentially helps us put our personal brand out there. So what I would say before even going to social media is actually sitting down and really writing your brand strategy, right? And your brand, I will say this, there is 4 things that you want to be thinking on when you're building your personal brand. And this is where you want to start, because you don't want your personal brand to be this intangible, right? When you're building it, you want to be, okay, what am I physically doing, right? This is exactly like the question is like, you go there, it's like, well, I want to build a personal brand, but what do I do? So this is what I want you to, for everybody listening, I want you to keep in mind. And what I'm going to do is then I'm going to go through these 4 points, and then I'm going to give you a worksheet. So they can come back to these and they can listen, and they're going to be able to build their brand through the worksheet.
Awesome.
So I want you to think of the reason why you're building a personal brand, right? At the end of the day, if you're in business, you want 2 things. You want to create income and you want to create impact. Most of the women that you and me work with and how we are making a difference in the world is through our businesses. So what you want to create is a bridge between you and your client of know, like, and trust. And I know that a lot of people already heard this. Well, now, how do you create that, right? So number one, the know. You definitely need, if people don't know about you, that's it. That's it. The story ends there. So you definitely need to show up, right? So know, like, and trust factor. So I like to start with the trust, because people are not going to buy from you if they don't trust you. And you build trust by building your expertise. So this is number one on, and I'm actually going to open it so I don't forget anything. Let me, like for those that are listening, bear with us, like, because, we are in the computer. So for us, it's easy. And so number one, you want to build your expertise. So what does this mean? For example, for you, you want to write down the things that you're an expert at, right? But you want to write them down. Why do I say this? Is because if somebody's just starting out, most likely they know what they do. So for example, let's say, I don't know, that you are a financial coach. I'm just going to use some example. Well, I'm a financial coach. Yeah, but financial coach is very broad, right? So what you want to do is maybe you want to write your expertise, and then you want to write your expert topics. what are the things that you want to talk about, that you are feeling and having a calling to talk about, that you're going to build your expertise around. And what I say, people, is you want to write 4, 5, 6 of this. Now, if you're just starting out, you're probably not feeling like an expert. So I am going to give you a way out of that. There is always somebody that is 2 steps behind you. Mm-hmm. So if you're experiencing, like most women, I had it, you probably had it, imposter syndrome, right? What I want you to do is to start thinking, what can you help to somebody that is 2 steps behind you, right? Because now it becomes so much easier. You're like, oh, for sure. Like what you do, right? You help women with their podcast. So somebody, like, I know that I'm great at what I do, but that doesn't mean I'm an expert at creating my own podcast, right? So what you're doing is helping somebody is 2 steps behind you, that not necessarily you need to have all the answers. And this is where you writing these 4, 5, 6 topics is going to help you. Start by starting there. So now that's going to build your confidence. Okay. So did you get it until there? Do you have any questions?
No, that sounds great. Yes.
Okay. So then what you want to do, and this is where the magic happens. If there is any magic, which I don't believe there is a secret sauce, I think there is magic. There is nothing that is secret, but the magic is your own personal brand strategy. So we talked about you, right? It's like, what is that big umbrella over you? Because people talk about content pillars and they talk about brand pillars and they talk about, well, but those are different. So your personal brand strategy, I'm going to give you an example. So I have a client that she owns an insurance agency, right? And when we were building this, I started digging, uncovering who she really is. And I started asking, okay, what is important to you when it comes to your business? She said, well, the reason why I got into insurance is because when I was younger, I got into an accident and I didn't have the proper coverage. And then I ended up getting a job as a salesperson at an insurance agency. And I started understanding that the person that sold me the insurance, I was looking for cheap. He wanted to sell me for cheap, but the reality is that brought so much hardship to my family. So what is important to me actually is to help people have the proper coverage for what they have. And I'm not necessarily helping people through cheap insurance. And I remember we went through her content, and a lot of her content was like, hey, let us give you a quote. We can beat the competition. I was like, well, do you think that your mission and your message are aligned? She was like, oh, no, I never realized that. So you building your own angle, right, of why you do what you do, how you do it, why you do it the way you do it, right? So for you, for example, is how do you want people to see you, right? Like this expert in podcasting, you help people like from zero so they don't have these problems. But also, what is the big vision of that? Are you a multi-passionate entrepreneur? Are you passionate about helping people also in other areas, right? I know for me, I'm a personal branding coach and photographer, but I talk about community because when I first came to the entrepreneurial space, I felt very lonely, and there is no need for that to be that way. So I talk about community. I talk about being you, right? Because so many of us really struggle through that. So your own personal angle, okay? To what you do. So then attached to that is your conviction. Anybody can teach, anybody can put a mission statement together, but nobody can do it the way you do it with your own opinions. So you writing and having the ovaries, right, the guts to really talk about your conviction. Right? And your conviction, not only in your expertise in your field and why you do what you do, the way you do it, but also in life, right? What do you stand for? Are we good there?
Yes.
Talking too
Like,
much?
no. Oh my gosh. I'm like, my thoughts are going like, oh my gosh, maybe I need to write this down.
Well, I'm gonna give you the
I'm gonna
worksheet. So
download your
you're like going to be able to. Now, I want to tell you this. You have to write all these things down. Like, if you think about this, the reason why most people feel lost, right, when it comes to their personal brand, they don't know what to post, they don't know what events to host, they don't know like why they need to be showing in front of people, is because in reality they don't have all these things written down, which I'm gonna get to there in a minute. So, and the fourth one is you are the secret sauce. And what that means is like, how can you bring who you are into what you do? People want to be advocates of you. People want to like you. Okay. So we talked about the know, like, and trust factor. So the know factor, that's easy. You showing up, you networking, like you and me met networking, right? Like you showing up, you growing your network of people, you really doing all the things to put yourself out there with a message. So now we are creating that trust, right? But the like factor, this is where the secret sauce happen, and this is where you are you. So how many times you talk to a client and they're like, oh my God, I don't know, like everybody is looking for cheaper stuff, or everybody is like fighting me on the biggest objection I get is pricing. And what I tell people is, and don't get me wrong, we all get pricing objections, that never goes away 100%. But the reality is that people want to do business. They want to follow on Instagram. They want to go to networking events or whatever it is with people they actually like. So when you start showing who you are, so for example, if you like hiking, if you like doing triathlons, if maybe you are really an advocate for certain organizations, that is actually bringing who you are into what you do. Because people want to talk about the same things, they want to have things in common, and not necessarily that means I actually got a question because I share a lot about triathlon, and I always say because that's who I am, that's what I'm doing right now, and I love it. But the reason how I brought it into my brand, which I totally believe in, is that endurance and actually running a business is exactly the same. Right? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Like you have to overcome all this bullshit in your head, all these things that are parallels. And crazy enough, I had people say, oh my God, you inspire me so much. Since I started my business, I had a hard time working out. And I'm like, hey, you don't need to do a triathlon. You can go for a 30-minute walk in the morning. And you know what I mean? Like, and I have had so many people say, oh my God, thank you for sharing this. And for the longest time, I would never talk about it. So I took my own advice and I started bringing more of who I am into my brand. And I think this is where a lot of people like get really secretive, and they also they're like, well, but I don't want to show my life. You do not need to show anything that you don't feel comfortable showing. You can, again, you are on the driver's seat. You can talk about motherhood without showing your kids. You can talk about, I don't know, triathlon without showing everybody where you're riding your bike. If you have, I don't know. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Like, so let me wrap it up really quick for you. So your expertise, okay, your personal brand strategy, which is the bigger picture. So we cannot think of our personal branding just as content, is that bigger picture. And then everything we do needs to be cohesive with that brand strategy. So events, networking, expert topics to go talk to an event, right? Like the podcast that you choose to be featured in, right? Everything needs to match your conviction. You have to allow you to have your own point of view. Like you cannot be hiding and trying to be vanilla, because vanilla doesn't attract anything. Okay. And then the last one is bringing more of who you are into what you do.
That was like right there, like, oh my gosh. That was some valuable, like, I'm gonna download your worksheet because like ideas are running through my head. But
and this is the thing, you should be, all of us, including myself, we should all be doing this every few months. Because do you remember when we talked about your expertise? Your expertise is going to get bigger and better and bolder, and you're going to learn. So now your expert topic. So when I first started, I used to pitch myself to talk just about photography. So I would go into podcasts, or I would go into networking events, or I would host workshops or whatever. It was all about photography. Right. So as I learned, as I evolved, now I barely ever talk about photography. I still offer photography, but that is not the bulk of what I do or where I'm going. Mm-hmm. Right. So as you evolve, that person that is 2 steps behind also changes. So it's really important that you're constantly reviewing these 4 points.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I love just adding you into your business, because that's who people end up wanting to work with, is people they can relate to. Mm-hmm. So like you said, I talk about motherhood. My daughter doesn't want to be on social media at all, so I don't put her on there, but people still know I have the kids.
Well, and this is the thing. A lot of people are very reluctant to putting, their kids on social media. I totally understand it. But like, if part of like your brand, right, it's how freaking hard is running a business with kids, right? Like, by all means, because that's going to create conversation and brand alignment with people that are going through the same thing, mm-hmm. that are looking for the same things.
Yes. Oh my gosh, like you just gave so much. Like, I feel like all my questions.
I feel like sometimes I just open the hose and I go,
I know. You can tell your passion for this. Like, your passion just like screams. Like, so I'm
gonna tell you, you mentioned the keyword. I think that for me, one of the things is I have a really hard time working with people that they have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because I personally am so passionate, but also I truly believe that your personal brand is your legacy. So if you think about even the word, like your brand is your mark in this world. And through different things that we do in life, that's how we are living our legacy. Our legacy can be money, but also can be that mark. Like, I know that what I am doing, I'm helping women leave their own mark, right? Like, in like all of us, by you helping women create podcasts, right? You're helping women have their voice. So what we do is not really so different, mm-hmm. right? Because as women find more and more of their voice, and more women have the guts to start their own business and to really feel called, be like, I have a message, I have something to say, and I'm sure there is people out there that want to hear it. We're all really making the world a better place.
Yes, that is like my big umbrella, is I feel it's time for women to use their voice.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even know that. And yeah, and all the people that I've been attracting into my world and I'm doing things with, that's the theme. So it's really hard for somebody, like, when somebody comes to you or me and they need help in their business, and they're not absolutely passionate about what they do, is really hard. And that's part of where women have a hard time maybe finding, right, these higher level brand strategy. They're like, well, I should start my business to make money. Well, you mm-hmm. haven't really like gone deep yet to what is the change you can bring into the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like we all started our business to make money and to have some more freedom. Yeah,
every single one of us. But the more we get into it, and I think we start seeing success when we actually lean into the difference we make. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna lie, it took me quite a while to really understand that, but once I did, it was like my heart burst. There is this saying, I think it's Jim Rohn, I might be butchering it, that says, help people get what they want, and you will get what you want. And I remember I was like, okay, I don't get it. I couldn't quite grasp it. But then once you do, Like, so if you haven't, as a listener, if you haven't grasped the concept of making a difference for others yet, keep digging, because that's where the magic happens. And I remember hearing this from other people, and I was like, what are they talking about? But once I did, oh my goodness, my heart was like,
Yes. Yeah. Same with me. Yeah. Once I realized like, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I love this so much. And I can help others in the process. Yeah. Just, it opens everything up. Like it just opens you up.
it really does. It really, really does.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being on today. Cause wow, like so much value. So I know our listeners are definitely going to want to connect more with you. So how can they do that?
So so what I'm going to do is I am going to give you a download. So I'll send you the link, and you can put it on the show notes or whatever. But I hang out on Instagram all the time. That is my hub, at ati.g.branding. So Ati, ATI, branding. My website, www.atigrinspun.com. They can go there. And then I'm everywhere. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and I do host live workshops very often. We have one coming in November, I think, our episode will come out in November.
Yes.
We'll have 5-day live personal branding bootcamp in November. And if you listen to this after November, reach out, because we have them periodically, and these are free, and these are amazing. Like literally, I walk you not only through these 4 points, but also why you need it, how to build it, and beyond content.
Awesome. I will make sure all of that is in the show notes. Thank you again so much. This was an amazing episode.
I am so glad that it was valuable to you. I love it, love it, love it, love it.